Hello there, my name is Beth Gaff and I'm the Media Literacy Coordinator here at the Peabody Public Library. And I first want to start off by telling you, just like all the other streamed classes, that these are all geared to go at your pace, which means that you can minimize this, go away from this, pause this, and come back to it at any point. This class is for the Windows 8 RT 8.1 newest update. So if you have not updated your computer to the newest update, you will want to do that so you can follow along a little bit better with the class. And if you are a part of the Computer Class Pass, you're definitely going to want to be listening for that code that's inside of this class. So you can get that to me and I can get you down for taking the class. So you'll want to either call me or come in and let me know what that code is so I can get you marked down and get you on your way to some prizes and benefits. If you're not familiar with the Computer Class Pass, please get with me so we can get you signed up for that. But without any further ado, I want to welcome you to Windows RT 8.1. If you're familiar with some of the other classes that I have streamed, I pretty much start them all the same way. And we're going to start out with some terminology, and these are going to be some things that you're going to be hearing throughout the class that you may want to refer back to so you have a better understanding. So I'm just going to go through these briefly here. An application, those are those apps, those are all those tiles. It's a tailored application or the Metro style app that runs in the new Windows runtime environment, and it's launched from the start screen. These apps are full screen and are programmable language. And then you have an app bar, which is a toolbar that has an interface element like the Metro style that's typically hidden until needed, and it houses commands, which are generally user interface elements like buttons and other graphical controls. And then you've got your charms, which is a set of 5 icons available that comes up on the side, which is part of your corners, which appears when you swipe into the interior of the screen from the right side of the screen. And they also include your search, your share, your start, your devices, and your settings. Your groups, this is sections of tiles on the start screen that are visually grouped and can optionally be named. You can move entire groups of tiles around the start screen as needed. Your lock screen, that's Windows 8's welcome screen, which appears when the computer first boots. It features the time, the date, and the series of notifications. And your search, Windows 8 contract that provides searching capabilities, be it for your apps, your settings, your files, or whatever you're looking for. It's globally accessible from the search charm, so you can get to it from there, and that's from the right edge of your screen. A secondary tile, that is a special kind of start screen tile that is created from within an app. For example, an address book app would have its own tile, but it could optionally provide you with the ability to create a secondary tile from any one of your contacts so that you can access a contact more easily directly from the start screen. Another one that goes with that would be your Microsoft Office. Those are your secondary tiles. Snap, this is the process by which two apps can be displayed or docked side by side in Windows 8. These apps can consist of 2 Metro style apps or 1 Metro style app. Just depends on what you would rather have. We're not going to go too much into the Snap portion of this. But then the Task Manager, that is an update to applications, processes, services, performances, networking, and user management tools from previous Windows versions, and provides startup app management on other new features. And your start screen, this is the new Windows 8 shell or user experience, which involves full screen user interface, tailored full screen apps, and a new runtime environment called Windows Runtime. Your tiles, this is the user interface element found in Windows 8's start screen that replaces icons and represents applications and other items. Windows 8's tiles can be small or large. They can be live or not live. They are sometimes called live tiles. Tiles are said to be pinned to the start screen. When removed, they are unpinned. This does not delete the application, it just removes it from your start screen, and we're going to talk about that. Your Windows Defender, that's an upgraded version of the Defender tool that you may be familiar with from one of the other Windows programs, and it provides an antivirus in addition to an anti-malware. It replaces the Microsoft Security Essentials. You've got your Windows Store, which is a Microsoft online store for Windows 8 applications. This is where you would go to find some of those applications you may be looking for. It consists of both the Metro Style apps and the traditional apps. You can install the Metro Style apps up to 5 Windows PCs. But from the Windows Store, you can get that Facebook app that you may want, or just a Google search app. It's kind of like the devices that you may already have, your smartphone, your tablet. It's very similar to that as far as the store goes. The Windows 8 or update, that's the Windows software updating service within Windows 8 that will just automatically update that for you. Your Metro Style apps, that's just an interface style. Your desktop mode. This is the Windows design familiar to those who have used any other versions of Windows 95 and Windows 7, with the start bar in there on the bottom tiled icon against a flat background. It can be accessed anytime by opening the desktop tile on the start screen. So you haven't lost that feature. It's just not visible to you all the time, and we're going to actually talk about a way that you can make it visible to you all the time later. Your email address, when you start your Windows 8 machine for the first time, you'll be asked to enter in your email address to create a Microsoft account. With a Microsoft account, you can download apps from the store, and then you can sync those settings between devices. Your File Explorer, this is formerly called your Windows Explorer. It's the exact same look with a different name. This is your view of all the content on your desktop, and it pops up in a desktop mode. And of course your help. If you need help at any time, you can search the word from help from your start screen, and it brings up tutorials, troubleshooting menus, and things like that to kind of get you familiar with Windows 8. And of course your zones and gestures. These are the four corners of Windows 8. Your zones are for your non-touch screen, and your gestures are for your touch screen users. So you can access all of that within your zones and gestures. The first thing that you may notice with the new Windows RT 8.1 update is that we now have that desktop interface, or that desktop look, or the Windows 7 XP Vista look that we're used to seeing, which is a little bit more convenient than going straight into those tiles. I know that those could get a little discouraging, so I wanted to give you a couple of pictures of what that's going to look like, and depending on what you've set your desktop screen to in the background, it may differ from this orange colored screen that they have here. But the Windows RT 8.1 desktop, you're now able to go to that start screen in the bottom left hand corner like you've been able to do in the past. All of your applications or your apps that you have pinned are now going to be down there at the bottom in that taskbar, and you've got those control settings there to the right like normal, like you used to have, where you can change your system and security, as well as your clock and your date and your time. What's also nice about the new interface of Windows RT 8.1 is that any app or tile that you open will now be displayed in that bar on your desktop at the bottom, so you're going to be able to easily get back to it if you would minimize and go away from it. So that is definitely a nice new feature that they have added in. So if you like using the desktop, you will see that both desktop apps and the apps from the Windows Store are now in your taskbar when they're running. You can also pin any app to the taskbar that you would like, so you can quickly open or switch between apps from the desktop. So these are some new features that are available through the Windows RT 8.1 update startup. So if you've not had a chance yet, go ahead and minimize this video and just kind of take a look at your new look of Windows RT 8.1 startup window, and it just kind of get yourself a little bit familiar with that. Maybe even try clicking on that start screen or that start application that you have now down in the left hand corner and see that where that's going to get you. You can't mess up anything, so do not be afraid to touch things and to push buttons. That's the only way you're really going to learn how to use the program to the fullest of its capabilities, is if you are willing to explore within there. So go ahead right now and just get yourself a little bit familiar with that new look. Another new feature that they have added to your tiles now, so when you go down in that left hand corner and you push that and all your tiles come up, like the picture you see in front of you, up in the right hand corner you now have your login information. You also have that power button, so you're able now to shut down straight from that start screen versus going through the charms to do that. And you also have a search feature now that you can push on that'll search your entire computer for whatever you may be looking for. Maybe you have a document that you need to find, or maybe there's just an app that you're having a hard time finding. Then that search option is going to be very nice for you, as well as being able just to shut it down straight from the start screen and not having to mess with those charms and going into our settings and then closing it out from there. But if you've gotten yourself familiarized with that, you're doing pretty good, and this is going to be just a lot easier than what you were doing before. So go ahead right now and get yourself into your tiles, and that would be in the bottom left hand corner of that desktop menu when you first start it up. And notice now that you have your account information as well as a shutdown button and your search button. So getting started with Windows 8 isn't much different than getting started with any other system as far as just turning on your computer. It's automatically going to be prompted, and it's going to pull up the Windows 8 screen. And I just have a picture here just to kind of show you what the differences are and what the interface looks like. So after you log in to your lock screen, you're going to be prompted to Windows 8, and that's what this picture is here. And there are 4 main categories within it, and you've got your start screen, which it shows you right there, the start. You've got your charms, which are going to be on the right hand side, and that's going to be exposed to you once you hit those corners or those zones. And then of course you've got your apps, and you get those through your store. And then you've got the tiles, and the tiles, the difference between apps and tiles are that tiles can be turned on, meaning that they're live, which means that that's information that it's feeding to you. So if you have a news tile on your start menu, which most of them come standard with, you're going to see it flipping and changing pictures, and the words are going to move around and things like that. That's what actually makes it live. If it's not doing anything, then it's not a live tile, and you can actually turn on that live tile to make it live. And again, the only difference between an app and a tile is whether you can make it live or not live. And the application is like a secondary tile. So, for instance, Microsoft Office would be a secondary tile. We can't turn it on and make it live. It's not going to feed anything to us. So our travel, our news, possibly our Facebook, and anything like that that can give us information. It's going to keep it up to date, your weather, things to that effect. Those are your live tiles, and you can turn them on, and they generally just feed you the information, and you can click on them at random to find out what information they want you to know. So this is just getting you started with Windows 8 and letting you be familiar with it. So if you have a device at this time, a laptop or a desktop or a tablet that has Windows 8 on it, why don't you go ahead right now and pause this video and just get yourself into it so we can kind of be on it together at the same time, so that way things I'm telling you, you have a better understanding of. So at this point we're just getting started with Windows 8, and I just want you to be familiar with your start screen, your charms, your apps, your tiles, and those secondary tiles as well, or your secondary apps. So go ahead and get yourself on there, and it'll make it a lot easier for you to follow as we go through the class. Something to become familiar with when it comes to Windows 8 to make it go a little bit smoother for you is to understand the four corners of Windows 8. And this is your zones or your gestures. Now, whether you have a touch screen or your non-touch screen is going to depend on whether it's a zone or if it's a gesture. So for example, if you're watching this on a desktop right now and you can't physically touch your screen and do anything, then it's a zone. But if you have a computer that is touch screen, then it's called a gesture. And each corner here, and I have arrows pointing to each one, represents something different. So if we start on the left and we go to the left upper corner, anytime we click on that left upper corner, we are going to get all of the apps or all of the tiles that we have come in contact with. And what I mean by that is we have clicked on it, we have done something with it, and we have it open for ourselves. Therefore, on the left-hand side, we can see that a whole bunch of those are coming down. Now, do you see that normally? No, you don't see that normally. But if you have Windows 8 up right now, you can actually take your mouse and put that cursor up in the left top corner, and you're actually going to see a pop-up come up. And it's going to be whatever you were in last or whatever programs you were in last. So for example, on this picture, we can see that they were in several programs that they didn't close out beforehand. So it's kind of a little cheat thing, so you can flip back and forth in between the different programs that you've been in. So every time I click on a tile or a secondary tile, it's going to pull it up for me in that left-hand corner option. So when I go and I put my cursor in that top left-hand corner, it's going to pull down anything that I've had contact with on my computer. And if I want to get rid of those and I don't want them there, I can just right-click and I can close those out. So take a moment now and just kind of experiment with your left upper corner and try right-clicking to see if you can get that menu options. And sometimes right-clicking, depending on the device you have, if you're using a laptop, you may want to push kind of hard if you're using that mouse pad instead of the actual electronic mouse, because it may not take right away. And I have found that with one-on-one appointments that we have to actually really push down on those mouse pads in order to get them to do what we want. But definitely become familiar with your right click, because Windows 8 is full of right clicking. So you definitely want to get yourself used to using the right click. So by doing that in the upper left hand corner and we right click on each one of those, we're going to get a close link, and then you could just close all of those out. So go ahead and give that try at this time. I'll give you a couple seconds here, and then we'll move on to the bottom left corner. All right, so that was probably pretty fun, being able to experiment with your right click a little bit and get rid of those tiles or those programs that you've already been in that you don't really need at this time. So now we're going to move on to the bottom left corner. And the bottom left corner, if we put our mouse there, it's basically just going to either give us our desktop or it's going to prompt us back to our start menu. So if we're already in our start menu, then we're probably not going to get another option to go to the start menu because we're already in it. But if I clicked on a tile of any kind, so let's say that I clicked on my Google tile, and I'm in Google, I can then take my mouse and go to the bottom left corner, and I'm going to see my start menu pop up for me, and then I can push that, and I'm going to go back to my tiles like I'm used to seeing. So why don't you try that right now? Again, that's the bottom left corner, and you don't have to click anything yet. Just stick your mouse in the corner after you've clicked on a tile and see what you get. And you're going to get that start menu, and then by clicking on that start menu, you're going to get these tiles to come back up. So it never really goes away. It just kind of moves. It just kind of puts itself down there so you have the access to be able to get to it when you need to. Now on the right hand side, it doesn't matter if you use the upper right corner or if you use the bottom right corner. Either way, you're going to get that Charms menu, and that's that menu coming up in the black on the side that says Search, Share, Start, devices, and settings. So either way it goes, you're going to get that menu. There's nothing you can do about it. Now, keep in mind that when you actually put your mouse in those right corners, it's going to appear, and it's not going to have that black background like you see here. In order to get that black background, and that's what you're going to need to do to actually push on those, you just need to move your mouse down a little bit, and then that background's going to change black, and then you can click on any one of whatever it is you're looking for: the search, the share, the start, the devices, and the settings. So just by putting your mouse in the upper or lower right hand corner, it's just going to pull that out, and then by lowering your mouse just a little bit, you're actually going to see that change to a black color. And when you change it to a black, that's when it's active, and that's when you can actually push on it and do something. So why don't you go ahead right now and stop this video or pause it and get on Windows 8 if you're not on it yet, and kind of just explore around with your four corners so you can see what I'm talking about, because this is going to save you a lot of time in the long run when you're trying to get to certain places rather quickly. So again, our upper left hand corner is going to give us all those tiles or any programs that we've been in. Our lower left hand corner is going to take us back to our start menu or possibly our desktop, and our right hand corners, no matter which one we use, is actually going to pull out our charms menu and allow us to do more within Windows 8. So go ahead and explore with your four corners right now. So that was really fun, right? Being able to get yourself familiar with those four corners a little bit. So now we're going to talk about the charms in Windows 8. And we know that if we put our mouse in either right corner, whether it's the top right or the bottom right, we're going to get this charms menu to pop out. And we know now that if we just move our mouse slightly, we're going to get it blackened in, so we can actually push some of those buttons there. And we can see that we have the search, the share, the start, the devices, and the settings. Now in the next few slides or the next few pictures, we're actually going to explore each one of those separately. So if you have not had the opportunity to get yourself into your charms or access that charms bar, then you definitely want to do that at this time. So pause this video or minimize it and get your charms out for yourself so you have a better understanding and we can follow along together a little bit better, because now we're going to get into each one of those features. Using search in the charms is a very, very handy feature to have. So by pulling out my charms menu, I know I can do that by the top or bottom right corners. I can pull that out, and then if I click on search, which is that very top one there, I'm now prompted to a new area. And this area is going to allow me to search either everywhere, or I can search just certain areas that I am looking for. So for example, that back picture that has the picture on top of it is showing that they are searching everywhere in their computer for their reading list. So you could search everywhere in your computer for whatever it is you're looking for. And what I mean by that is any programs that you already have on the computer, this is what that search is for. Now, depending on what you're in is how the search works. So, for instance, this one I am searching everywhere. So it's going to search everything, the entire computer, for my reading list. But I can actually narrow down my search, and I can just do it by apps, or I can do it by settings, I can do it by files, I can do it by store, I can do whatever. Anytime I am in something, it's searchable. I can search. So that picture that's on top of the other one is showing you that they are going to be searching within their apps. But they could actually search within their store if they wanted to, and that's just by going down a few on that list and clicking on store, and then it would say store up there and not apps, and then you could search the store from that as well rather than just clicking on the tile. But normally we would just click on the tile and we would search within the tile. But this is just showing you other ways that you can search within your computer to make it a little bit easier for yourself. So why don't you pause the video right now and take a minute and get yourself familiar with those different search features that are now available to you through the charms. Thanks. I just want to remind you, and this is just a little bit more about search, that anything you are in is searchable. Meaning if you click on apps, you can then search within apps. If you click on files, you can now search within your files. And if you go to the Windows Store, you can now search within the store. So as you can see, our screen's changed a little bit now, and we are still in searched apps, but that list over there to the right under search apps, that we can narrow down, and we could click on one of those and it's going to allow us to search within that particular app. So every app you have is searchable. So it can be really, really fun and exciting to kind of play around with the search tool. So why don't you go ahead right now, if you didn't before, and pause and minimize this video and go in and explore your search options. Click on different things. Again, you cannot hurt anything on your computer at this point. It's already there. You're not removing anything. At this point, we're just searching. So don't be afraid. Don't be scared. You're not going to mess anything up, I promise. And if you do, call me and we'll get it fixed. I promise you. Okay, so go ahead right now and explore into your searches and see how much you can do within that. The next thing that we're going to come to on our charms menu is going to be our share. And the share is a new application through Windows 8 that's built in that allows you to share information from the app via email, social media, SkyDrive, or messaging. So within the share, you can also access photos that you might want to share with someone. It is a context sensitive, so you can share what you're currently viewing as long as the app has been written to take advantage of the share feature. So for example, the photo app can share via mail and SkyDrive, and the music app lets you share via mail and the people app. At this point, not many apps support the share feature, and of those that do share, not all can share in all ways. It is up to the app developer to decide. Desktop apps cannot use the share feature at all. Pressing the Windows key plus H activates the individual charm. So you can't use this for everything. It sounds like it's going to be primarily your handheld devices or your tablets that will allow you to share. But I wanted you to be familiar with what that actually does and why it's there instead of just taking up space. It's actually there for a purpose, and it's for the social media or the email part of it. So you can definitely take a look at it on your Windows 8 from the charms menu, and you can click on it. You're not going to hurt anything, and you can see all those different options that are available to you through the share feature. The next tool feature on your charms is going to be the start, and by clicking this charm, it sends you back to the start screen. So if you're in your charm menu and you click it, it's just that charm menu is going to go away, and because you're already in it. Unless you're in something else and then you pull up your charms and hit that start, it'll take you back to Windows 8. So if you already are on the start screen, you will return to wherever you were before you headed to the start screen, an app or the desktop. Pressing the Windows key by itself accomplishes the same thing as clicking the start charm. So getting familiar with that Windows key, which is just the 4 squares next to each other, usually between your Control and your Alt. It might be by your space bar, just depends on how that's set up. But it allows you a quick access to get you back to your start menu from wherever you are. So if you can't seem to get back to your Windows 8 and you need to be in there, this is a great place to go, and that would be to go to your charms, which is that menu there, and then click start, and it's going to take you back to your tiles. else. So why don't you try minimizing and pausing the video and going in and just clicking on something and then pulling up your charms and then clicking that start button and seeing how it takes you back in there. And actually, while you're in there doing that, that's when a good time would be for you to use that left upper corner that I was telling you about. So if you use your mouse and you put it in the left upper corner, it's going to show you what you have done. So if you started on the start menu and then you pushed a tile and then you push the start menu again, it's going to have your start menu, that tile you pushed, and then your start menu all listed in that left upper corner. It just shows you all the activity that you've been doing on your computer. But at this time we want to know how we can get back to our start menu from maybe being somewhere else. So if you click on something else and then you click that start menu, it's going to take you back to Windows 8. So just take a moment now and just kind of push some buttons and get yourself familiar with the start feature. The next feature we come to on our charms is our devices. And this charm is a context sensitive. So what appears when you click, it depends on what you are doing at the time and what kind of devices you have connected to your Windows 8 computer or tablet. Generally, you use Devices charm to print from a Windows 8 app and to manage your printers and other connected devices. For instance, if you have 2 or more displays connected to your device, Devices lets you control how the screen works. So this is where you're going to be able to hook up your printer or any kind of device. So if I plug in my phone, I'm going to find it under my devices. Anything that it picks up that is a device, a tablet, a phone, your printer, anything like that is where you're going to find that is going to be under devices. So go ahead and click on devices now and see what your options are, if you have any at all, and just kind of click and play with it. You can't mess anything up at this point. We're just exploring in our charms, so give it a try. Settings is the next one that we're going to come to, and this charm, which you can also launch by pressing the Windows key and the I key on your keyboard, gives you access to a wide variety of application-specific and system-wide settings when you click it. You will see that it is divided into 2 parts. The top part is context sensitive, showing settings related to what you are currently doing in Windows 8. If you click the settings charm while you are in Windows 8 Photo app, for example, you can designate which folders, computers, and websites, such as Facebook and Flickr, you want photos displayed from. These are a few apps among other options. From the Start screen, you can change settings related to tiles, such as whether to show tiles for administration tools, like the control panel. The bottom part of the settings is the same no matter where you are. It lets you change global Windows 8 setting for your network, sounds, screen, notification, power, and keyboard. Click the Change the PC Settings link, which we're actually going to be talking about in the next slide, and that's going to be at the bottom of the screen to get you the new PC settings screen, which lets you customize how the most important features of Windows 8 work from a single location. For example, the Personalized section lets you change your account picture and the background images for your lock screen and start screen and choose which Windows 8 apps, weather, mail, and so on, should deliver information to the lock screen. Desktop apps cannot send information to the lock screen. So basically on this particular one, if we just clicked on the settings, it's going to give us, and we can see in that bottom right picture, we have some options now. We have our desktop, our control panel, we can personalize the PC info, and there's our help that we're used to. The bottom part's what they're talking about as far as personalizing your lock screen, and we're going to talk about that in the next one. So go ahead and minimize and pause this and push on that settings key, see what your options are. And actually, if you wanted to, and it's completely up to you, while you're in settings, you could actually pin your control panel to your Windows 8 screen because it's not already there. So that way you wouldn't have to go into settings every time you wanted to add a device or uninstall a program, or you wanted to change background or something like that. So what you can do is you can right-click on the control panel, and you're going to get a menu that comes up that says Pin to Start. If you push Pin to Start, now if you go in, and you can do that by going to your bottom left corner and going back to your Start menu, you're going to see that there's now a tile there for your control panel. And again, that was just by right-clicking on Control Panel and pushing on Pin to Start. And that'll take you, and it'll take it right to your Start menu, so it's a little bit easier accessible to you than having to go in through the settings to find it. But this right here is just about the settings and what you can do within it. And the best way to figure out what you can do within it would be to actually push it and get in there and do something with it. So go ahead right now, pause, minimize, go away from this video into your Windows 8 and just push on that settings and see what you're going to get and see how it comes up for you. This is that slide I was telling you that we were going to come to next, and this was changing your PC settings, and that's the second part of the settings that we were talking about in the last slide. So this is where you might want to personalize your lock screen, your start screen, or put an account picture on there. So if you go to Change PC Settings, once you're in there, you're going to see the different things that you're going to be able to do. And that's going to be personalize, notifications, search, share, general, privacy, devices, wireless, ease of access. And again, you can see within that second part of that settings, because it's split, you can see that little line in the left-hand picture kind of splitting your settings from the bottom part. That's going to also be where you're going to connect to the Wi-Fi area. And you can see that one there that says Network 2, and there's like a picture of a monitor. That would be where you would actually connect yourself to a wireless network. So if you were here in the library, we would go into your settings, and then you could push on that Wi-Fi setting, which it probably says Wi-Fi and not Network 2. This one's probably already been set up on Network 2, and that's why it says that. But it's going to automatically pick up on the Peabody Public Library's wireless internet, and then you're going to be able to connect to it right from there. And then go into that Change PC Settings, and then you can see all the different things you're going to be able to do. You're going to be able to change that lock screen picture, your start screen picture, your account picture, and that's just personalizing. Each one of those there has its own features of what it does. So just go, and I can't stress it enough, you can't mess anything up at this point. So just go ahead and get click happy, if that's what we want to call it, and click on different things, explore, figure out how to use your Windows 8. And that's going to be the only way you're going to figure out how to use it, is by getting in there, pushing buttons, and doing things on it. So let's minimize, pause, go away from this video, get into your Windows 8, and go to your settings and go to your Change PC Settings, which is located all the way at the bottom, and see those different options that you have for yourself. This slide here is just kind of showing you some things that we've already talked about as far as customizing your lock screen. We know that we can get to that through our settings, which is on our charms, and then we can go down to where it says Change PC Settings, and we know that we're going to get a menu like that picture to the right that has all those different options that we can go in and we can change our pictures and make it look very fancy. Now down below there, that's just kind of showing you another way of doing it. So if you wanted to push your search within your settings, then you could also just type in customize lock screen, and it's automatically going to bring up a little app for you, and we can see it in that bottom picture, and that's going to allow you another way to get in there to change those settings if that's what you so wish to do. So again, this is just exploring a little bit further into customizing your lock screen and giving you some more familiarity that we've already talked about as far as the way that we want ours to look, and another way that you can get into it. Scrolling in Windows 8 isn't much different than scrolling anywhere else. You actually have scroll bars. So you can take your mouse, and if you move your mouse all the way to the right, don't click anything, just move it all the way to the right, you're going to see all those tiles move. If you take it all the way to the left, then they're going to move back. Or you can use your scroll bar, which is at the bottom there, and put your mouse on it and scroll back and forth there. If you have touch screen, you obviously can just touch your screen and flip it back and forth. But this is just kind of showing you a way that you can scroll within Windows and how you can get through Windows by using the scroll. So go ahead and minimize the video and pause it and get yourself familiar with that scrolling in Windows 8. Alright, so we've had some fun, right? We've been able to figure out our four corners, we've customized our lock screen, we've learned what that charm bar is for and all those features within it. Now I want to talk to you about the tiles themselves. And the start screen is made up of a grid of colorful tiles. Each tile represents an app. Click the tile to run the app, or tap it if you have a touch screen device. Your new home is the Windows 8 start screen. To start, you will find tiles for several new apps: People, Mail, Calendar, Messaging, and others that are built into Windows 8 and will have the same look and feel as the start screen. Formerly called Metro apps, they are now referred to as Windows 8 apps. Windows Store apps, modern apps, or start apps by industry watchers. Windows 8 apps will be distinguished separately from desktop apps. So, for instance, you have a notifications app. Some Windows 8 apps grab information from the internet and show live updates, also known as notifications, on their tiles. For example, the Calendar app displays upcoming events and friends' birthdays on its tile. The People app tile displays social media updates from friends, and the Mail app title displays the sender and subject line of your most recently received emails. Some notifications can also appear on the lock screen depending on how you have configured your Windows 8. Your desktop tile or app, desktop apps, are traditionally programs like Microsoft Word or Adobe Photoshop. As a general rule, any application that you have run on previous versions of Windows is a desktop-based app. Desktop-based app tiles do not show notifications, and they have smaller graphics on them. Also, tiles from desktop apps often appear on the right side of the screen, and other tiles as well may lie off the edge of the main front screen, so you may have to scroll or swipe if you have a touchscreen device to see them. So we have several different kinds of tiles here, and we can see that on this particular picture. We have our Mail tile, and there is a desktop tile. You have your internet tiles, and then you have the apps, which are on the right-hand side of the screen, and that's your Microsoft Word, Office. Maybe you have a QuickTime Player or a Dropbox. Anything that isn't going to be live, meaning it's not going to feed you information, is going to be just an application. So a secondary tile, if you will. So all those to the right are just apps that we either put on our computer, whether we downloaded a disk or we downloaded them from the store. Either way, that's what those are. And on the left-hand side, we can actually see the ones that have pictures on them. The ones that have actual color pictures on them are called live tiles, and those tiles are the ones feeding you information. So by making them live, it's automatically connecting them to the internet, and it's allowing them to feed you information live from that particular source. So if you're using the travel app, all of the information coming in is from travel.com, the people that own travel.com, and they're constantly streaming you internet information on that live tile. Now, to turn off the tile, if you're not into travel and you really don't care and whatever, and you don't want to see the pictures changing, because that's pretty much all it'll do unless you click on it, you can right-click, and I can't express enough that right-click is the way to go on Windows 8. It's the only way you're going to be able to accomplish most of the things you want to accomplish. You're going to want to right-click on that app or that tile. And when you do that, you're going to get a menu at the bottom, or maybe even off to the side if you have the new 8.1 version. And there's where you can turn your tile on live, or you can turn it off live. And if you do that, you're actually going to see it changing before your eyes on the appearance of the way it looks. You're no longer going to see a color picture anymore. It's just going to look like all the other ones with just a basic picture, and there's not going to be anything feeding through it. So now that we have a little bit better understanding of what the difference is between a tile, a secondary tile, an app, and a live app, Why don't you go ahead and pause and minimize this video right now and go in and just explore your tiles a little bit. Figure out which one of those are live, which one of them aren't. And again, the ones that are live are actually going to have some interaction with you. You're going to see pictures on them changing and words are going to come up, whereas the ones that are not live won't have that. It's just one basic picture and you're not going to see any changing. So go ahead right now and give that a try playing around with your tiles in Windows 8. The best way to get yourself through Windows 8.1's new update is to definitely get yourself familiar with using your right click, because you're going to be using that right click for a lot of different features when it comes to Windows RT 8.1. And for instance, if you're wanting to move and pin tiles by pushing on the tile itself and keeping that left click down on that tile, you're going to be able to just drag those tiles around, and that's the best way to move them around. We've already talked about the right click and how you can use it to get that menu option. So right clicking on these applications will also allow you to pin those tiles to your start menu, or uninstall them or resize them. You get plenty of options for the Windows RT 8.1's newest update. So moving your tiles around just requires you clicking on a tile, keeping it clicked, and then just use your mouse and move it, and you're going to see the actual tile move, and that's called your dragging of the tile. And then if you want to pin it, then you would just right click on the tile that you want to pin, and you would push pin to start. And what that will do is it will pin it to your taskbar as well as your start menu. If you have it from your start menu, obviously you wouldn't want to pin it from there, but maybe you would want to unpin it, but you would be able to pin it to your taskbar. So why don't you right now go ahead and minimize this video and just kind of get yourself familiar with moving around those tiles and right clicking on them and getting those options, and maybe even try pinning some of those to your taskbar or maybe even to your start menu if you're in another location trying to get it onto there. So go ahead right now and apply those actions. I just wanted to talk to you a little bit more about right-clicking in the new Windows RT 8.1 update. One change that we noticed is that our click menu options are no longer at the bottom like they used to be in just the plain Windows 8. If you'd updated it to Windows 8.1, you would have already noticed that change. They are now displayed next to your tile or app that you are using. Or that you're working with. By right-clicking on the app or tile we are working with, we can clearly see a new menu displayed. These are new options that we have inside of that particular tile. So you want to make sure to get yourself familiar with right-clicking and seeing that option. And you can see in the picture there, by right-clicking on that menu, we can pin that to our taskbar, or maybe we just don't want it anymore and we can uninstall it, or we can unpin it from our start. Now anytime that we unpin anything from our start menu, it doesn't actually remove it from our computer, it just takes that tile away from the start menu. So if you wanted to find that tile again, you could just look in your apps, and we're going to talk about how you can get to those and how you can get those also right-clicked and put in there as well for yourself. So as you can clearly see, by right-clicking we get several options that are going to be useful and beneficial to us. So practicing and using that right-click is a really good idea and a really good habit to get yourself into. So go ahead right now and minimize, pause this video, and get yourself into your Windows 8 start screen, and just again practice that right-click and seeing those options and try different features. Anything you do can be undone unless you uninstall a program. If you uninstall it, then you would have to find it and reinstall it again. So you might not want to uninstall anything at this time unless you know that you permanently do not want it on your computer any longer. At this point you might just want to unpin it so you don't have access to it as much, but just kind of play around with that right click. Okay, so we've already kind of talked about how we can uninstall or customize our tiles, and that means by resizing them or pinning them to our taskbar or unpinning them from our start, or maybe we want to pin them to our start. By uninstalling a tile, that actually means that you're uninstalling that program from your computer. So if you right click on something that you just don't want on your computer anymore and you click on uninstall, it's going to remove all of the components that are associated with that tile or app completely off of your computer. So you're going to want to make sure that that is not a program that you're going to want to use again. 9 times out of 10 you would be able to go back and get that tile again. But if you need it rather quickly, it wouldn't be there, is my point. So just be very, very cautious and careful about uninstalling a program because, again, it goes away from your computer. Whereas if you just unpin it, it's not removing it from your computer, it's just taking it off of that start screen so you don't actually see a picture for it anymore. But it is still on the computer, whereas uninstalling it is removing that tile from your start and it's also removing it from your computer. So if you have tiles right now or apps that you just don't want anymore, you're not going to be using them anymore, go ahead and right click on them and uninstall them and get them out of there. Don't uninstall anything that that came with your computer. And what I mean by that is any operating system information or anything like that. If you have questions about uninstalling a program from your computer, please call me so I can schedule you an appointment so we can do this the correct way if you're not 100% sure on how to do it. And from there, I just want you to just kind of familiarize yourself with uninstalling, customizing your tiles, and just being familiar with your tiles altogether. Creating and naming groups with the new Windows RT 8.1 update is slightly different, not too terribly different. In order to create a new group, we can see in that upper left-hand corner, we're going to use our drag technique like we did when we were moving those tiles around. You would just click on the tile that you want to create a new group for. Maybe you want a group for just your internet, or maybe you want a group just named games. I would drag it over until I see that bar. And in that very first picture there in the left-hand corner, we can see with that red arrow that they've drug it over and there's a bar that comes up right on the top and underneath it. That is actually the new group. So if you find that bar and it's in there and you let go of that tile, it's going to plop it right into that area, and now you have created a new group. Now if you want to name your group, you would just right click above the group that you want to name and click name group, and then you can type whatever name you would like to name that particular group for. So there at the bottom picture I have it circled in that pinkish colored circle showing you that those are the group names that they have for their groups, and that's how they did that, was they drug that tile over until they saw that bar come up and they dropped it in that bar, and that creates your new group. And then you can right click above that group and then you're going to be able to name it. So why don't you right now go ahead and minimize and pause this video and go to your Windows 8 screen and go ahead and put anything internet affiliated, maybe your Internet Explorer, your mail, anything like that, and create a group for yourself by doing that. Go ahead, give it a try. Once you've created those groups, you may want to move the whole group itself around. And the first way you're going to do that is from that very first start menu with all the tiles on it, where all your groups are. You can see in the top left-hand corner, at the very bottom right corner, and I have it circled in orange with an arrow pointing to it, there is a little minus button. If you push that minus button, it's going to push all your apps back and make them smaller, and you can see that in that bottom picture. And by doing that, then you can just click on the group itself and just move it around. It's pretty simple. Now to the right there, I wanted to show you a picture that indicates how you know what app you are on when you are right-clicking or moving things around. Typically that there is going to be a check mark within that app to let you know that that's the one that you're working with, and I just wanted you to be familiar with that because we hadn't really spoken of that. But moving your groups is very easy. You're just going to push on that minus button in the bottom right hand corner of your start screen and push those groups back and then move them. Now if you want to bring them back forward and make them to the actual size, you would just click anywhere within that start menu, not on a group, but just anywhere outside of those groups, and it's going to kick those right back out at you and make them the size they were before. So go ahead right now and just minimize and pause this video and go in and be looking for those check marks when you are doing activities or working with those tiles or apps, so you know which one that you're working with. And then go ahead and move your groups around by clicking on that minus sign in the bottom right hand corner, pushing them back, and then moving the group itself maybe in between other groups, or maybe you want it to the front, wherever you want to put it. So go ahead right now and just explore with moving your groups around. If you're a part of the Computer Class Pass Incentive Program, your secret code for this class is I love Windows 8. Make sure I get that code so I can get you marked down for the class so you can be on your way to prizes and benefits. If you're not sure what I'm talking about and you would like to be a part of the Computer Class Pass Incentive Program, please get in contact with me so I can get you all signed up for it. One more new feature that Windows RT 8.1 update has is now you're able to see a minimize button and a close button, and a taskbar are more available with your mouse now. So your mouse works more consistently anywhere in Windows. You can move your mouse to the top of the screen to see close and minimize buttons, and I have those circled for you there with an arrow. And you can move your mouse down to the bottom of the screen to the taskbar from anywhere in the windows. So that's kind of nice. So as soon as you put it down there, that taskbar is going to come up. If you have your mouse all the way at the bottom of your screen, that taskbar is going to pull up, and we've talked about that already. But now you're actually able to minimize and close out these apps and tiles individually instead of trying to figure out how you're actually going to get out of them, or using that top left click or that top left corner where we can see everything that we've been on, and you're able to close from there. So now you have a minimize and a close button that are actually within each one of your apps and tiles. So go ahead right now and minimize and pause this video and go to where your tiles are and click on one and see these close and minimize buttons, as well as putting your mouse at the bottom of your screen so you're able to now see that taskbar pop up like I had mentioned before. I do believe we've tried this exercise before, but it can't hurt to get yourself more familiar with the Windows RT 8.1 update. Connecting to the internet through Windows RT 8.1 is pretty similar to the way it was before. You can do this several different ways. You can just go straight to the tile itself and click on the internet if you're already in a Wi-Fi area or you have your modem hooked up to your computer. If you aren't, the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to get yourself connected to a network. And the way you do that is in the top left-hand corner. We can see that picture that has a 1 and a 2. The first thing you're going to do is go to your charms, which is in, you can hit that by clicking on that Windows key plus C, or you can go to either right corner and it's going to pull up those charms, and then you're going to go to settings, and once you're in your settings, you should be able to go to networks and connect to the Wi-Fi directly from there, or you can click on the Wi-Fi link that is in your settings, and it's going to just pick up anything, any Wi-Fi signal that it gets from wherever you are, and you're going to be able to connect to it. Now if you need a password, that is not going to change. Every time you need a password, you will still need it, but if you're in a public domain, for instance, if you're at home or at the library, once you connect to it, you can check to connect automatically, and then every time you come in area with that particular Wi-Fi, then you would be connected. So you wouldn't have to connect every single time. Now if you're dealing with somewhere that requires you to put in a password, typically it won't make you keep putting that password in as long as it doesn't change. I do know that we do have some local establishments here that change their password on a daily basis, and they do this because they want people to purchase items from them and then obtain their Wi-Fi information. So in that situation, there's nothing really you can do about that. You just have to enter it every time. But if you're somewhere that doesn't change it and it's always the same, home, library, your McDonald's hotspots, Burger King hotspots, even your hospitals, they do require you to put an email in, but other than that, it will connect you automatically. So go ahead right now and just kind of explore with your settings and your charms like we've done before and learn how to get yourself connected to the internet. Getting connected to the internet isn't much different than you're used to getting connected to the internet on any other kind of device. You're going to, now if you use smartphones or you use tablets, you're used to these applications, you're used to these apps and these tiles, so you kind of know what's going on. But if you have a desktop that's had Windows 7 on it, then you know that all you've done in the past is just double click on your Internet Explorer, and really there isn't much difference when it comes to this either. So getting yourself connected to the internet, you may have a few different ones there. For instance, in the pictures we have here on the left hand side, Internet Explorer comes just standard on the computer. It's just going to be there. And then on the right hand side we can see with that yellow circle around it, that's Bing. And then the other two, or the other one has a circle around it, which is Google Chrome. And it's just a what you like to use. It's an individual preference, if you will, of what style you like to use. So if you like to use Internet Explorer, then you would click on that. If you like to use Google Chrome, then you would click on that. If you like to use Bing, then you would click on that. And maybe you have tiles downloaded that just let you go connect to the internet through the search engine like that Google tile is. Either way, connecting to the internet isn't any different than what you're used to before, except now you have it a little bit easier accessible to you. And that Bing tile is actually a live tile, so you'll actually, if you have it turned on, you'll actually see it move before your eyes, and the pictures will change and things like that. If you have it turned off, it probably just says Bing and nothing's happening. But if you turn on that live tile, and again, we can turn on or off that live tile by just right-clicking on the tile, getting our menu option, and we can turn it on or off from that location. Now, as far as once you're in the internet, that's a different class. So if you want to know more about what you can do while you're in the internet, then I would recommend that you watch the Basic Internet Streamed class, or get with me and we can set you up an appointment so we can go over basic internet once you're inside of there. But at this point we're just talking about the internet tiles and how you can get into the internet through Windows 8. So go ahead right now and minimize or pause this video and go in and get yourself on the internet. If you have more than one tile, my recommendation would be to go ahead and push what you have one at a time and just kind of take a look and explore your internet tiles. So in Windows RT 8.1 update, you're going to discover apps in new ways. The Windows Store is pinned to the start and to your taskbar by default now, so you can easily discover new apps when you use the search charms. Bing Smart Search also includes those apps. Also remember what apps you recently installed. After you install new apps, Start includes a message in the lower left corner of the screen pointing you to the apps view so you can see what you recently installed. It also now has this new arrow key, and this arrow key takes you straight to all of your apps, and that's everything that's on your computer. So if you're not able to find that recent download, more than likely it's going to be in those apps, and you can get to that arrow from the bottom of your screen, or if you don't see it, if you just put your mouse towards the bottom of the screen, that arrow should pop up. And once you push that arrow, you can see to the left I have a circle around that arrow, and once you push that arrow, all of the apps, and you can see in that bottom right hand cornered picture, are going to show up, and that's everything that's on your computer. And from there you would be able to right click and pin some of these back onto your start or to your taskbar or anything like that. So go ahead right now and get into your Windows 8 screen and find your arrow and get yourself to your apps. I wanted to include some information about some Windows 8 shortcuts that are going to be very helpful to you. When these shortcuts say WIN plus C, the WIN stands for your Windows key, and I actually have two pictures there showing you what your Windows key looks like. Now the plus sign, you don't actually have to push the plus sign, they're just letting you know that you're going to push that Windows key with that other letter or that other feature or function. So for instance, if you push your Windows key plus the C button, you're going to get that Charms menu to pop out for you, and it's a lot easier to handle than trying to get into those corners and get it to pop out for you. So why don't you right now go ahead and just minimize and pause this video and go into Windows 8 and just kind of try and apply some of these shortcuts. Well, congratulations, you did it. You made it through Windows 8 Basic. You should be very proud of yourself. And make sure that you look for some more of those stream glasses at our website, which is www.ppl.lib.in.us. So if you have any questions about this class or any other class, please feel free to contact me and I can answer any questions that you have, hopefully. And again, pat yourself on the back, take a big deep breath, it's all over, and you made it through Windows 8. Good job. The following class was provided to you by the following websites as well as photos and images.